We're going to start today exactly where I was last Tuesday evening.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was about 6:30. I had just driven home from the studio, and it was a perfectly normal day, Nothing stressful on the books, nothing crazy happening.
Just a standard Tuesday.
Exactly, a standard Tuesday. I pulled into my driveway, put the car in park, and I turned off the ignition, and then I just sat there.
In the quiet.
In the dead quiet. The dashboard lights kind of faded out. The hum of the engine was like ticking a little bit as it cooled down. And inside my house, I knew my family was making dinner. Like, it's a safe house. It's a loving home. There was zero active conflict waiting for me on the other side of that front door.
Right, there's no actual threat.
No threat at all. But as I sat there gripping the steering wheel, if I actually tuned into my physiology, I realized I was bracing.
Like physically tensing up.
Completely. My shoulders were basically up by my ears. My breathing was super shallow. My body was completely armoring itself. Preparing to be immediately needed or criticized or emotionally pulled on the absolute second I turned that doorknob.
Wow.
Yeah. My physical environment was entirely safe, but my internal environment was preparing for a war that it wasn't happening.
Which is so exhausting.
It really is. So, welcome to Vibrations and Manifestations, Deep Dive number 140. We are in part 3 of our July Threshold mini-series.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Alicia.
And that driveway moment, I'm so glad you shared that because it is so profoundly revealing about the baseline state of our nervous systems.
Yeah.
Because you are absolutely not alone in that.
I'm guessing you've been there too.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I had a nearly identical experience of those internal alarm bells this week, just, in a different setting. For me, it was the kitchen.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So I was standing at the counter, completely alone. No news playing, no external chaos, just the low hum of the refrigerator in the background. But an hour prior, I had sent a text message to someone who matters deeply to me, and there was no reply.
Ah, the unanswered text.
The dreaded unanswered text. And suddenly, in the middle of this perfectly safe kitchen, my body decided, with absolute certainty, that I was in danger.
Just from silence.
Just from the silence. My stomach dropped. My chest went incredibly tight. Without any new facts being introduced into the room, my nervous system just decided I was fundamentally unseen, that I'd been too much, and that I was about to be completely abandoned.
It's a profound shift, isn't it? And it happens in like a fraction of a second. The environment is completely benign, yet the internal alarm is sounding a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah.
In our previous deep dives in this mini-series, so Deep Dive 138, where we explored the difference between static and signal, and then 139, where we convened the Signal Council to figure out who actually gets to influence you, we laid the groundwork for identifying these false alarms. But today, we are taking a massive step deeper.
A really big step.
Yeah. Today, we're moving from who gets to influence you to which emotional timeline are you actually living from. So our deep dive today is called The Emotional Timeline, Choosing Safety Before the Surge.
We're going to be talking about why our bodies so often rehearse the past instead of simply responding to the present. We are unpacking how old emotional timelines can make present moment situations feel completely unsafe.
Right, especially through those insidious little triggers like the unanswered texts, a slight shift in family tone, silence, ambiguity, or just that feeling of being unseen.
And we have a very specific, tender focus for today. We're utilizing the symbolic energy of the Cancer new moon to invite you to completely reset your inner emotional home.
So if you are listening to this right now, whether you're, I don't know, in your car, walking the dog, standing in your own kitchen, staring at your phone, and you have ever felt like your reactions in a moment are entirely disproportionate to the actual facts of what is happening, we really want to speak directly to you today.
We are going to explain exactly why this happens biologically. And we're going to walk you through a real-time workshop on how to gently but effectively guide your nervous system right back into the present tense.
Our guiding principle today is a phrase you are going to hear us repeat quite a bit. And the phrase is this: I can respond from the home I am building, not the home I survived.
I can respond from the home I am building, not the home I survived. I love that so much. Let's really unpack exactly what we mean by that. Because before we can change our emotional patterns or manifest any kind of new reality at all, we really have to understand why our brains are creating these panicked surges in the first place.
We have to look at the biology of it.
Exactly. For a very long time, the prevailing cultural idea, and even the older scientific idea, was that emotions are automatic, hardwired reactions to the outside world. like they are objective truth signals.
Right, like cause and effect. You see a bear, you feel fear.
Exactly. The old thinking was you see a threat, a specific fear circuit in your brain trips, and boom, you experience fear. But neurobiology has evolved way past this, and understanding this evolution is basically the skeleton key to unlocking your timeline.
This is where we get into this amazing concept of constructed emotion. Because emotions aren't actually happening to us. Your brain isn't sitting back objectively watching a movie of your life and just reacting accurately to the screen.
Right, it's not a passive observer.
Not at all. Think about the physical reality of your brain for a second. It is trapped in a dark, silent box, your skull.
Like a literal vault.
Yes, a vault. It has zero direct access to the outside world. All it gets is raw sense data coming from the outside and from the inside of your body, so your heart rate, your digestion, your breathing. And to make sense of all this raw data, the brain acts as a prediction engine.
A prediction engine, that's so key.
It has to guess. It relies on internal models, past learning, past childhood blueprints. It literally guesses what a physical sensation means based on what it meant the very last time you felt it. So your brain is actively constructing an emotion to make meaning out of its own predictions.
Which perfectly explains my kitchen meltdown. When I'm standing there and that text remains unanswered, my brain registers a slight shift in my physiology. Maybe, I don't know, a slight drop in blood sugar or a tiny little spike in my heart rate.
Just a subtle biological shift.
Right. And it looks at that data, searches its filing cabinet of past experiences, remembers a time when silence meant I was about to be rejected or abandoned, and it actively constructs the emotion of panic to get me to do something about it.
It's trying to save you.
Yes. It's constructing, meaning using an old, outdated blueprint.
And we really have to talk about the physical mechanism behind this, the radar system that is constantly scanning the room. In neurobiology, this is called neuroception.
Oh, neuroception is everything.
It really is. This is your autonomic nervous system's reflexive, completely subconscious evaluation of risk and safety in your environment. And we need to emphasize the evolutionary biology here. Neuroception evolved to keep early humans alive in incredibly dangerous environments.
Where hesitation literally meant death.
Exactly. So it happens entirely below your conscious awareness. It absolutely does not require your prefrontal cortex, the logical thinking part of your brain, to sign off on it. It just acts.
It is so incredibly fast. Your vagus nerve, which wanders all the way from your brainstem down through your facial muscles, your vocal cords, your heart, your lungs, and deep into your gut, it is constantly, relentlessly scanning for danger cues and safety cues.
Like multiple times a second, right?
Multiple times a second. And when neuroception detects a danger cue, which, by the way, could be something as minuscule as a micro-expression on your partner's face, or a sigh, a specific tone of voice, or, a delay in a digital response, it instantly shifts your physiological state to prepare for defense long before you have consciously registered what even happened.
Okay, but this is where I want to push back on the biology just a little bit, or at least synthesize what this means for us practically.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if my brain is just constructing reality based on past blueprints, and my nervous system is reflexively jumping to conclusions without my logical permission, does this mean our feelings are just fundamentally fake? Like, are they just lying to us?
That is the big question.
Because when I'm sitting in that driveway, the tension in my chest isn't a theory. It's an agonizing reality. And the panic you felt in the kitchen, that was entirely real to you.
Oh, I was sweating. It was real.
Right. So it makes me think of an overzealous email spam filter.
Ooh, I like that.
You know when you get a perfectly safe, essential email from a colleague, but the algorithm flags it as highly dangerous spam and just throws it in the junk folder because it contained like one random keyword?
Yes, all the time.
Is my nervous system essentially just a broken spam filter? Are we supposed to just ignore our feelings because they're based on bad code?
I absolutely love that spam filter analogy.
Yeah.
Because it highlights the exact distinction we need to make here. Are your feelings lying to you? Are they fake? No, absolutely not. The emotion is 100% biologically real in your body.
The physical reality of it?
Yes. The cortisol flooding your system is real. The adrenaline is real. The restricted blood flow to your digestive tract is a biological fact. Your body is telling the absolute truth about the intensity of the physical feeling.
Right, because you really can't logic away a cortisol spike. You can't just think your way out of a racing heart.
You cannot. And this is where the freedom lies.
Yeah.
The story your brain has attached to that physical sensation might need to be sent straight to the spam folder.
Wow. Okay.
The body is telling the truth about the feeling, but is not necessarily telling the truth about the facts of the present moment. Your nervous system's spam filter caught a keyword, a delayed text, or a quiet house, and it applied an old survival rule, like silence equals abandonment, or quiet means someone is brewing a massive criticism.
That completely changes the paradigm. The physical sensation is completely valid, but the interpretation is just outdated.
Hmm.
So sometimes your body is not reacting to what is happening right now. It is reacting to what it has learned to expect.
Exactly. It's an expectation hangover.
And I think just hearing that for a lot of our listeners is going to alleviate an immense amount of shame. You aren't broken, you aren't crazy, and you aren't quote unquote unhealed just because you have a massive reaction to an unanswered text. Your nervous system is simply operating on a very old, very protective prediction model.
It's doing exactly what it was designed to do to keep you alive. It just has an outdated software patch. Yeah.
Which brings us to the core thesis of our workshop today. Because our nervous system is constantly predicting the future based on the past, we end up trapped in these loops, and we call them emotional timelines.
Emotional timeline.
An emotional timeline is not a literal destiny. It's not some rigid fate that you are locked into forever. It is simply the familiar emotional story your body expects to repeat. It is the hidden architecture underneath your day-to-day reactions. It is the invisible gap between what your conscious mind desires and what your nervous system is actually prepared to experience.
Let's expand on that gap for a second, because this is where the concept of manifestation really hits the friction of biology.
Yeah, this is the sticky part.
Consciously, you might deeply, desperately want a peaceful, secure, romantic relationship. You are doing the affirmations, you are setting the intentions, you want love, but your emotional timeline, the blueprint your body learned in your early childhood environment, might associate connection with immense pain or abandonment.
So there's a massive contradiction happening in the body.
Right. You consciously want love, but your body is physically rehearsing abandonment.
Yes. You might want professional visibility and success. You want to be seen for your talents, but your body constantly rehearses the humiliation you experienced the very last time you stood out.
Or you want a peaceful home, but your nervous system expects conflict, so it keeps you hypervigilant, scanning the living room for an argument that hasn't even happened yet.
You are essentially reading a script for a play that closed 20 years ago.
That is exactly what it is.
And let's look at how this timeline turns ambiguity into autobiography. That's a phrase I really want us to sit with for a moment. Turning ambiguity into autobiography. An emotional timeline takes ambiguous data and turns it into a fixed narrative about your identity.
It fills in the blanks.
Right. Take your kitchen text story. A delayed text doesn't actually mean anything on its own. It's just a blank space. It's totally ambiguous. The person could be driving, they could be in the shower, they could have literally just dropped their phone under the couch.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. But the emotional timeline translates that blank space into a brutal autobiography. It says, I am unwanted, I am too much, I ruin everything.
Exactly. The timeline cannot tolerate the unknown, so it just fills in the blank with the most familiar, painful story it knows. Neuroception senses the delay, flags it as a threat based on the childhood timeline, and the constructed emotion of shame just floods the system.
And then the behavior follows the emotion.
Always. What usually happens next is behavioral overcompensation. I either send a frantic follow-up text to fix the anxiety, or I apologize for being annoying when I wasn't even being annoying, or I swing the completely opposite direction and decide to ice them out, rejecting them before they can reject me.
Which is wild because you are acting on a timeline that exists nowhere except in your own nervous system.
Exactly.
And this ties perfectly into a phenomenon we see all the time, which is the manifestation paradox. Why do we sabotage the very things we say we want?
The ultimate question.
Right. Like, why did I sit in the driveway, bracing against the loving family I consciously couldn't wait to see? I was literally creating friction where there was none. Why do we do this? Biologically speaking, it's because the nervous system will almost always choose a known discomfort over an unknown freedom.
Let that sink in for a second if you're listening. Your nervous system will choose a known discomfort over an unknown freedom. Because your brain's primary job is not to make you happy.
No, it doesn't care about your happiness.
It really doesn't. Its job is to keep you alive. Predictability equals safety to the primitive parts of our brain. If you grew up in a chaotic, unpredictable, or highly critical environment, chaos is familiar. You have a map for it. You know exactly how to survive it.
You're an expert in chaos.
Exactly. So if you suddenly find yourself in a genuinely calm, loving, secure relationship, your nervous system might flag that calm as a massive threat.
Because it's waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's thinking, I don't have a map for this kind of peace. This peace is unpredictable. And unpredictable means we might die.
Literally, that's what it thinks.
So it says, let me pick a fight about how the dishwasher is loaded, or let me withdraw and sulk so we can get back to the familiar discomfort that I actually know how to survive. Your body might label a calm relationship as danger simply because it has never known this kind of safety before.
So, if we want to stop sabotaging our peace,
Mhm.
if we want to actually build the capacity to tolerate unknown freedom, we have to precisely identify which specific timeline is currently hijacking our nervous system.
We have to name it.
Yes. We're going to walk through 3 of the most common, deeply entrenched emotional timelines right now. As you listen, I want you to pay close attention to which one creates a resonance in your body, which one makes you kind of wince and go, oh, that's me.
Let's start with the first one, the abandonment timeline. This is a very powerful, very primal one. The core belief running the abandonment timeline is this. If someone pulls away, even slightly, I am not safe. I will not survive the disconnection.
The primary symptom of this timeline is an absolute panic at silence. It's that desperate bodily rush to fix connections the second you perceive any distance at all. People running this timeline tend to overtext, they overexplain themselves, they apologize for things they didn't even do, and they very often test people instead of communicating directly.
Testing people. Gosh, we see this all the time. Instead of just stating the vulnerable truth like, hey, I'm feeling a little disconnected right now. Could we spend some intentional time together this evening? Someone operating on the abandonment timeline might pull away coldly or pick a really minor argument just to see if the other person will chase them.
It's a subconscious way of trying to force the other person to prove they won't leave.
Right. But ironically, that testing behavior usually just creates the exact distance and exhaustion they are completely terrified of.
It becomes a total self-fulfilling prophecy. In our previous deep dive, we talked about the difference between the static voice and the signal voice. For the abandonment timeline, the static voice, that old panicked nervous system reaction, is screaming in your ear. They're pulling away. They're realizing you are a burden. You have to fix this right now. Do something.
It's frantic. It demands immediate, impulsive action just to relieve the internal pressure of the anxiety. But the signal voice, the grounded, present moment truth of the home you are actually trying to build says, I can stay connected to myself while I wait. Their temporary space does not equal my annihilation.
I can stay connected to myself while I wait.
Dang.
That is the new timeline. Okay, so the second one is the responsibility timeline, and this is your driveway story, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Guilty as charged?
The core belief of the responsibility timeline is, if people around me are upset, uncomfortable, or unhappy, it is my absolute job to fix it.
Oh, the chronic fixers, the peacekeepers, the emotional managers. If you are on this timeline, your symptoms look like chronic emotional overfunctioning. You are constantly managing the mood of the entire room.
You're like a human thermostat.
Exactly. You walk into a space, your neuroception senses a microscopic tension in someone's jawline, and you immediately start trying to smooth it over. You make a joke, you cater to whoever seems grumpy, you just hustle for their comfort. You believe that love requires you to carry everyone else's emotional weight.
And the biological cost of this is staggering. We mistake exhaustion for devotion. We think being utterly drained by our relationships means we are loving people well. On the responsibility timeline, you feel immense, crushing guilt for resting.
Yes, the resting guilt.
If you are sitting on the couch reading a book and your partner is stressed about work in the other room, your timeline tells you that you are fundamentally failing as a partner because you aren't actively solving their stress.
The static voice for this timeline says, if they are uncomfortable, you are failing. Their internal state is your responsibility. And that is exactly what I was doing in the driveway. I was bracing to take on the emotional weight of the house before I had even opened the door. No one asked me to.
You're volunteering for the job.
Volunteering for a job that didn't exist. The signal voice, though, the healthy alternative we want to anchor into, says, I can care without carrying what is not mine.
I can care without carrying what is not mine. You can have deep, abiding empathy for someone's struggle without taking ownership of solving it for them. That is a massive neurological shift.
It really is. All right, let's look at the third timeline, the invisibility timeline. This one's a lot quieter, but I think it is just as restrictive and painful.
It's very hidden.
Very hidden. The core belief here is, if I actually show my needs, I will be dismissed, punished, or I will become a burden.
The invisibility timeline is basically a recipe for deep, corrosive resentment. The main symptom here is self-erasure. You stay quiet, You minimize your desires. You act like everything is perfectly fine when it is absolutely not fine.
You're fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But underneath that compliant surface, there's a boiling resentment that no one has noticed what you need, even though you have never actually spoken those needs out loud. You are operating on a hidden contract. You are constantly waiting for others to guess your needs and then feeling profoundly unseen when they inevitably fail to reach your mind.
It's the classic, I am fine when you are definitely not fine. The static voice here says, stay small, stay convenient, do not be a problem. If you ask for too much, they will leave.
It's terrifying to ask.
It is.
Yeah.
And the signal voice, the truth we need to build our new home upon, says, my needs are allowed to have a voice. Having a need does not make me a burden. It makes me human.
Abandonment, responsibility, invisibility. These blueprints run so incredibly deep because they were usually formed in our earliest childhood attachments.
Yeah.
But here is where we bring in the absolute most hopeful piece of the neurobiology.
Yes, please give us the hope.
When we look at modern attachment theory, and specifically the newer understandings around neuroplasticity, we learn something vital. You are not doomed.
Let's repeat that. You are not doomed. An old attachment style or an old emotional timeline is not a life sentence. It is not a fixed personality trait. It is simply a pattern of expectation. And because the brain is incredibly plastic, secure attachment and balanced emotional regulation can be built at any age.
Any age. It's called earned secure attachment. You build it through repeated, emotionally safe interactions. Every single time you experience a trigger, but you choose to pause and respond from the present rather than reacting from the past, you are literally physically rewiring the neural pathways in your brain towards security.
Every time you stand in the kitchen with the unanswered text and you don't send the panicked follow-up message, you are doing a rep. You are building a new neural pathway. Every time I sit in the driveway, notice I am bracing and actively drop my shoulders and walk in without trying to fix everyone they're irking. I am doing a rep. I am teaching my nervous system that the old timeline is no longer the only option.
But the million-dollar question is, how do we actually do that in the moment?
Right when the house is on fire.
Because when the alarm bells are ringing, when the cortisol is flooding your veins, logic usually goes right out the window. Your prefrontal cortex basically goes offline. This brings us back to the framework we introduced in Deep Dive 139. Once you hear that static voice panicking, you need a structured way to stop it from dictating your behavior. You have to convene your signal council.
Let's review this council and expand on how it practically saves us from the surge. We use the analogy of a courtroom. When a trigger happens, instead of letting the most panicked, primal part of you hand down the verdict and take the wheel, you force a pause. You consult 4 distinct seats or perspectives to separate the historical timeline from the present reality.
The first seat in our courtroom belongs to the body. The body is the star witness. And when a trigger happens, the body rushes the witness stand, absolutely breathless, pointing fingers.
Sweating, shaking.
Yes, fully activated. It reports the immediate physical sensation. The fear, the urgency, the contraction in the gut. The body screams, I feel terrified, my heart is racing, therefore we are in mortal danger right now.
And as the leaders of this council, we listen to the star witness. We validate their experience. We say, I hear you. The heart rate is real. The sweat is real. But we also recognize that as a witness, the body is often an unreliable narrator of the external facts.
Very unreliable.
Right. The body has a bias. It is reporting on the past just as much as the present. So we validate the sensation, but we do not let the star witness hand down the final verdict. We turn to the second seat on the council, which is the evidence.
The evidence is the forensic data. This seat strips away all the narrative, all the emotional what-ifs, all the autobiography, and looks strictly at the undeniable, objective facts of the present moment. So if we go back to my kitchen text scenario, what is the actual forensic evidence?
The text is unanswered. That is it. That is the entirety of the forensic data. We do not have evidence that they are angry. We do not have evidence that you are too much. We simply have an unread digital message.
Exactly. The evidence grounds the nervous system. It stops the story from spiraling out of control. Once we have established the bare facts, we move to the third seat, which is the wise witness.
The wise witness is the judge in our internal courtroom. The judge maintains order and asks the perspective-shifting questions. The judge looks at the panicked star witness and asks a brilliant question. How old do you feel right now?
Oh, that question changes everything. Because so often, in a deeply triggered state, we don't actually feel like capable adults. We feel like a frightened 7-year-old or a deeply rejected teenager. The wise witness asks, is this present moment truth? Or is this old emotional weather?
Or in the case of my driveway moment, the judge asks, what actually belongs to me in this situation? Did my family actually ask me to manage their moods today, or am I volunteering for a job that isn't mine out of an old habit?
The wise witness provides the context. And finally, after the star witness is heard, the forensics are on the table, and the judges provided context, the case goes to the fourth and final seat, which is the future self.
The future self is the jury deciding the ultimate verdict, which is the action we are actually going to take. But this jury isn't focused on immediate relief. It isn't trying to just soothe the panic right now by sending a frantic text. The future self is focused entirely on agency, boundaries, and long-term trust.
The future self asks the ultimate grounding question: which response preserves my agency and builds trust in myself?
If I send a frantic accusatory text right now just to alleviate my anxiety, will my future self feel proud of that behavior tomorrow?
Probably not.
Definitely not. Will it build long-term trust in the relationship? Probably not. The future self helps you choose a response from the home you want to live in rather than the one you are trying to escape.
Understanding this counsel conceptually is wonderful, but we promised a practical workshop today. When you are actively triggered, when neuroception is screening danger, cognitive frameworks are really hard to access. You need physical, somatic, and linguistic tools to ground your body so your brain can actually hear the counsel. We want to walk you through 3 specific tools for real-time safety.
The first tool is a rapid mental checklist. We call it the emotional timeline check. You deploy this the exact moment you feel that disproportionate surge of emotion. It's a rapid-fire sequence of 4 questions designed to interrupt the neurological autopilot.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, what happened? Just the facts, like my partner sighed heavily when they walked in the room. Second, what story did my body immediately tell? Like they are angry with me, I did something wrong, I have to fix it.
The autobiography.
Right. Third, how old do I feel right now? I feel like a 10-year-old waiting to be scolded by a parent. And fourth, is this present moment truth or old emotional weather?
I love the weather metaphor so much.
Yeah.
Because weather is just a storm passing through. It isn't the permanent climate of your life. Answering those 4 questions takes maybe 30 seconds, but what it does biologically is force your prefrontal cortex to come back online and start collaborating with your amygdala.
But let's be totally honest, sometimes the physical activation is so incredibly high that you can't even think straight enough to answer 4 logical questions. You're just buzzing with pure anxiety. That's where tool number 2 comes in. This is called the inner home reset.
It is a somatic practice. It's about using the physical body to signal safety to the brain, bypassing logic entirely.
And we want to actually guide the listener through this right now. If you are listening and you are in a safe place to do so, like obviously if you're driving, just listen, don't do the physical part. But if you can, we're going to do this together. We're going to slow the pace completely down.
We're going to hold a little space so you can actually feel the shift in your physiology.
Let's practice this. Take one of your hands and place it flat against your chest, right over your heart center. And take your other hand and place it flat on your belly.
Just breathe here for a second.
Feel the physical weight and the warmth of your own hands. This physical pressure is already starting to contain the frantic energy. Now, out loud or silently in your head, I want you to name your present location. Ground yourself in the geography of right now. Say, I am in my living room, or I am on the sidewalk.
Just establish where you physically are.
Next, name the actual forensic facts of what is upsetting you. Strip away all the story, just the evidence, the email is unread, or the dishes are still in the sink.
No story, just fact.
Now, identify the underlying need you have without any judgment, just pure honesty. I need reassurance, or I need 10 minutes of absolute quiet.
Give it a name.
And finally, offer yourself this one foundational inner sentence. Let this be the cornerstone of your new home. I am safe enough to respond slowly.
Let's just hold that space for a moment. Breathe that in. I am safe enough to respond slowly.
That sentence is the ultimate antidote to the urgency of an old timeline, because trauma and old triggers demand immediate impulsive action. Safety, true safety, allows for a pause.
It physically feels different just doing that exercise right now, even just talking about it. The pressure of the hands on the chest and belly. Biologically, supportive touch, even your own touch, releases oxytocin, which acts as a literal brake system on the amygdala's fear response. You are manually overriding the neuroception of danger.
Okay, so you've slowed down, you've done the timeline check, you've regulated your body with the inner home reset. What do you actually say to the other person if another person is involved? This brings us to tool number 3, which is the one safe request.
This is where we bridge internal regulation with external communication. When we look at the psychology of expressive communication, we see that putting vague, swirling internal distress into concrete language significantly reduces cognitive load. It regulates the nervous system. Language gives the nervous system a handle to hold on to. If you can name it, you do not have to become it.
And when interacting with others, making a safe request is how we navigate completely out of the old timeline. But we have to be extremely clear about what a safe request is not. A safe request is not a demand. It is not an ultimatum. It is definitely not a test to see if they really love you.
No hidden traps.
Right. It is not a performance of how laid back and cool you are. And it is not a hidden contract where you ask for one thing but secretly expect them to read your mind and do another.
A safe request gives your truth a clean place to land. Let's give a concrete example of this, going back to your driveway moment. Let's say you're sitting in the car, bracing for the demands of the house. If you were operating on the old invisibility or responsibility timeline, what would you normally do?
I would walk in the door, say absolutely nothing about my exhaustion or my needs, act completely fine, start doing the dishes, and then silently, bitterly resent my family for not noticing how tired I am. Or I would walk in already irritable and pick a fight over shoes left in the hallway just to create distance.
Right. The old timeline creates chaos. So what does the one safe request look like instead for that moment?
It looks like regulating my body in the car first. Doing the breathing, hands-on, heart and belly, then walking through the front door, greeting my family warmly and saying, I am so incredibly glad to see you all. I'm carrying a lot of tension from the day, and I need 20 minutes to decompress quietly in the bedroom, and then I really want to come out and connect with you for dinner.
It is so beautifully clean.
It's entirely clean. I am naming my need, 20 minutes of decompression, without making my exhaustion their fault. I am not withdrawing in hidden resentment. I am taking full agency over my own nervous system. I am telling them exactly how to succeed with me in that moment.
It completely removes the mind reading. And mind reading is the currency of old emotional timelines. We expect people to just know how we feel, and when they inevitably don't, it confirms our core belief that we are unseen or abandoned. Making a simple, clean, safe request breaks that entire cycle. Yes, it requires vulnerability, but it is a grounded, regulated vulnerability.
Let's zoom out a bit. We've talked deeply about the biology, the constructed emotions, the 3 specific timelines, and the somatic tools. But we want to wrap this up by introducing a symbolic layer to help conceptualize this entire process of resetting our emotional baseline. And we want to frame this around the current astrological symbolism of the Cancer new moon.
And let's be very clear about this. We use this strictly as symbolic weather. We are not talking about deterministic prediction or doom-laden astrology. We aren't talking about fate. We are talking about using these ancient archetypes as tender, grounded prompts for our own psychological reflection. It's like using a myth to understand your own heart a little better.
The specific symbol we are looking at is the Cancer new moon. In archetypal language, the sign of Cancer is deeply, profoundly associated with the inner child, the private emotional world, memory, and the concept of home. And not just the physical drywall and wood of the house you live in, but the emotional home you retreat to inside yourself.
And a new moon always represents a reset, a time of dark quiet where we plant seeds for a completely new cycle.
So when you put those two together, the Cancer new moon acts as this beautiful symbolic invitation to ask yourself a profound question. What emotional home are you building from? When the world gets loud, when a text goes unanswered, when the silence stretches out, what is the default emotional architecture you retreat into? Is it a home built on the expectation of abandonment, or is it a home built on the expectation of safety and agency?
This is a period for debugging our manifestation process, looking at the old code that is still running in the background. Because so many of us feel like we are doing all the right things, we're setting intentions, we're doing the meditations, but we keep hitting an invisible wall.
The wall of our own nervous system.
Exactly. We have to look at our underlying emotional frequency. Are you manifesting from true desire? Or are you manifesting from emotional fear? Are you asking the universe for a new, expansive life while simultaneously rehearsing an old, restrictive wound in your nervous system every single day?
You are calling in the new, but your emotional timeline is batting it away at the door because it doesn't recognize the vibration of peace. And this is where we have to offer ourselves a massive amount of grace. This isn't about blaming yourself for having these trauma reactions. Your nervous system is just trying to protect you based on the absolute best information it had in the past.
It's not self-sabotage. It's simply outdated protection. The goal isn't to shame the reaction. The goal is to lovingly, consciously update the timeline from which you respond.
To bring all of this together, we want to lead you through a powerful guided visualization. It takes this abstract idea of the inner home and makes it tangible for your nervous system. I want you to just listen to my voice and walk through this with me. Imagine, in your mind's eye, that you are walking up a beautiful path toward a house. This house represents your internal emotional world.
Just picture it in your mind.
As you walk up to the front door, you pause. You put your hand on your heart and you remind yourself of our sentence. I am safe enough to enter slowly. You turn the handle, you open the door, and you step inside. And as you walk through the hallway of this house, you realize there are some old familiar rooms. These are the rooms you had to build to survive your past. You see a door marked abandonment. You look inside and you see the fear of being left, the panic, the urge to cling, the frantic texts.
It's just a room.
Just a room. You walk a little further and you see another door marked responsibility. Inside that room is the heavy, exhausting burden of carrying everyone else's feelings, the guilt of resting, the chronic fixing. You see a third door marked invisibility. Inside is the quiet, cramped, small space where you hide your needs so you won't be a burden to anyone.
And here's the crucial, beautiful step in this visualization. You do not burn these rooms down. You do not lock them away in shame or hate them. You stand in the doorway of each one, you place a hand on your heart, and you simply say, thank you. Thank you for trying to protect me when I was younger and didn't have any other tools, but you do not have to lead this life anymore.
You validate their purpose, but you revoke their authority. And then, in your mind's eye, you step into those old rooms, you walk over to the windows, and you throw them wide open. You let the light of that new moon, that reset, pour in. You let fresh air circulate through the stale, fearful air of those old timelines.
And finally, you walk back out, and you walk to the very center of the house, the foundation. And you are invited right now to choose a new word, a new cornerstone for the emotional home you are building today. It might be peace, it might be belonging. It could be trust, honesty, safety, softness, courage, or simply home. You choose the word that represents the unknown freedom you are finally ready to tolerate.
You place that word at the center of the house, and you recognize that this new home isn't about ignoring the past, but it is about actively choosing not to live in it anymore. I can respond from the home I am building, not the home I survived.
Let's recap the journey we've been on today. We started by understanding that our brains construct emotions based on past predictions, rather than just passively reacting to the present. We looked at neuroception and how our bodies can flag ambiguity like a quiet driveway or an unanswered text as danger before we even have a conscious thought.
We defined the three major emotional timelines that hijack us. Abandonment, where pulling away equals danger. Responsibility, where others' discomfort is our job to fix. And invisibility, where having needs makes us a burden.
We learned how to convene the Signal Council, putting the body on the witness stand to validate the feeling, looking at the evidence for facts, consulting the wise witness for context, and letting the future self choose the verdict based on agency. And we practiced the somatic tools, the timeline check, the inner home reset, and making one clear, safe request.
The core takeaway today, the single most important thread running through all of this, is that familiar does not always mean safe. Sometimes the intense anxiety you feel when things are actually going well isn't your intuition warning you of hidden danger. It's just your nervous system encountering a kind of peace it hasn't mapped yet. You have the power to map it.
So here is our call to action for you this week. We invite you to do two simple things. First, identify just one emotional timeline you are ready to stop rehearsing. Just one. Notice when it flares up in your body. Second, try making one safe, honest request to someone in your life. Remember, not a demand, not a test. Just a clear request that gives your truth a clean place to land.
And as we wrap up Deep Dive 140, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've talked a lot about the profound exhaustion of the responsibility timeline today, but consider this. What if the absolute exhaustion you feel in your relationships isn't actually because you are doing too many tasks for people, but because you are secretly trying to manage the emotional timelines of everyone around you just to keep yourself feeling safe?
Wow, that is heavy.
You are constantly adjusting your own behavior, contorting yourself to prevent them from triggering your fear. What would happen if you just stopped? What if you let people have their own emotional weather without making it your permanent climate?
That is a brilliant question to sit with in the driveway.
Next week in Deep Dive 141, we are taking a slightly different turn to wrap up this series. We'll be diving into a topic titled The Great Amplification: Fire, Air, Power, and Possibility. We'll be exploring how to step into visibility, how to act boldly and creatively without letting the nervous system become frantic, how to be powerful and deeply grounded at the exact same time.
Until then, remember that the next time you're standing in the kitchen and the text is delayed, it is literally just a delayed text. You are safe enough to respond slowly.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.